Hello and welcome to this Fiddle for Beginners course from World of Music at Band on the Wall. My name is Grace Smith and I play the fiddle. This is the first of 4 short videos which will give you some tips on how to get started playing the fiddle even if you've never picked one up before. In this first video we're going to learn about the different parts of the instrument, how to look after our fiddle and how to make a sound. First of all, have a listen to this tune. Listen to the sound and watch how it's made. So that was a folk tune called Kate Dalrymple. You can see when I was playing, I was holding the fiddle like this. So it's under my chin, and that brings us to the first part of the fiddle. So maybe get your instrument out of its case if you haven't already, and you can point and find these bits of the instrument as I talk you through them. So while we're getting ready to do that, this is the fiddle. It's exactly the same as a violin. So if you hear me saying fiddle or violin, they're the same thing. Quite often it's called fiddle when we play folk music. So some people always call it the fiddle if they're playing that style of music. But it's exactly the same instrument as a violin. So our first bit here is our chin rest. And that goes here on the side of your chin. You can hold it with your left arm. So it goes on your left shoulder and under that side of your chin. And you kind of want to make sure you're not really tense in your neck or your head or your shoulders. We always want to be as relaxed as possible while we're playing. So the chin rest helps to make us nice and comfy. You can see I also have this on the back. This is a shoulder rest. These come in lots of different shapes and sizes, and it takes lots of experimenting to find the right one for you. You might have one of these already. They just go on the back of the instrument like this, and again helps us to make sure we're not tense while we're playing and nice and comfy. If you don't have a shoulder rest, you might have a bath sponge in your case already. That's a really good thing to just pop here underneath the chin rest on the back of the instrument, and then get an elastic band, and you can just sort of loop it under the chin rest and onto this corner here and round the sponge, and that can hold it in place and be nice and comfy on your shoulder. Some people don't use a shoulder rest or a sponge at all, so if you don't have one you can still kind of start playing, but really just watch out you're not too stiff in your shoulder or your neck. It should be kind of, you bring the instrument up and you don't have to move, you're not reaching to make it comfy and hold on to it. So that's all to help us play nice and comfortably. Then we have 4 strings. We'll come to them later and learn a bit more about that. All of the parts of our fiddle are really fragile, so it's important, especially when it's new to us and we're getting to know how it all works, that we're very, very careful with it. One really important bit here is this bit of wood in the middle. That's called the bridge, and we want that to be nice and straight. Then we have 2 F holes where the sound comes out. A black bit here is called the fingerboard, and you can see when I was playing that tune I use the fingerboard, place my fingers onto the strings and then change the note that I'm playing. And then these are pegs here. Again, really important not to kind of mess around with these. Best not to touch them for now when you're first starting out, because what can happen is if you pull them too tightly it can snap a string, and it'll end up getting quite expensive having to replace lots of strings and might damage your instrument as well. So try to leave them alone for now. Another way we tune our instrument is with these fine tuners here, and I can come back to that and talk about that a little bit more. So yeah, and then this main bit of the fiddle is our belly. Again, try not to kind of touch it too much. It's always good to clean your hands before you start practicing, just because any bits of dirt or dust, you can see I've got bits on my fiddle here, but it can just kind of make it a little bit grubby and affect the sound, so trying not to touch the instrument too much apart from when you're playing is good. This bit here is the neck, and we put our hand on there to get nice and comfy to play. This is the scroll at the top, and yeah, that's the fiddle. Then of course the other part which I used to make the sound when I was playing that tune is the bow, and we'll come back to that in a future video. So we're going to get playing really soon, but first of all, just a couple of tips about looking after our fiddles. These, like I say, are quite fragile and they're very precious things, so it's important to know how to look after it safely. So first tip is to always keep it in its case when you're not playing. So when you finish practicing, pop it back in its case, nice and safe, and that means if you've got a busy house with lots of people running around, it's not going to get damaged accidentally. It's also really important that your fiddle doesn't get too hot, so don't keep it next to a radiator or a window where the sun might shine onto it. Keep it out of the way, somewhere safe, so it's not going to get too warm and it won't get damaged. So hopefully when we get playing, your fiddle will sound just like this one, and the notes should be fairly in tune. If you do find that you need to tune the strings to a different note because they don't sound right, I'll talk you through how to do that quickly now, but hopefully your fiddle should be ready to play. So if you find your notes when we get playing don't sound like these ones, there are lots of different ways to tune. Once you get used to playing, you can kind of tune to a note off a piano or something else that has got the correct fixed pitch already. But if you're not used to that, you can get these chromatic tuners. So this is one that's its own little machine, but you can get apps for phones or anything like that. If you look for chromatic tuner, get a grown-up at home to look for that and download a free app, and what they do is when you play a note, it'll flash if it's the correct note or not. So this one I'm looking for an A, and you want it to be on that green bit in the middle. If my string was really out of tune, so I'm just going to detune it. You can hear that's a different note now. So if I play it, yeah, it's not an A anymore. So I'm going to need to tune it up, and to make it go higher, so I'm turning it to the right, and each of the strings has its own fine tuner. So turning it to the right to make it sharper or higher. Oh, that sounds a bit closer. Let's have a look. Yeah, nearly there. So I turn it a little bit more. Oh, a bit too far there. So now I'm going to turn it to the left to make it lower. There, and that's about right. So that's how you tune your strings higher or lower. But like I say, hopefully when we're playing together, your notes will sound quite similar to these and you won't need to. So that's what you use to tune higher or lower. Don't use these ones for now, just the fine tuners, and just a little bit at a time. You don't need to do too much. So it's time to make a sound. Let's hold our fiddles up together. So if you sit up or stand looking at the screen nice and straight, as relaxed as you can, and then we're going to bring the fiddle up and slot it between our chin and our shoulder. Does that feel okay? It's good for now to hold the fiddle just here. So if I'm looking at my instrument, it's on the right hand side. I'm using my left hand. And you don't need to hold on very tightly, just make sure it's feeling comfy and you're not going to drop it. But we don't want to be gripping or tense, as relaxed as we can, and just placing our fingers on the side of the fiddle to support it. So we have 4 strings. let's try and make a sound on this first string together. So you can see I'm using my index finger, my first finger, to pluck the string. So that means I'm just stroking the string with the squishy pad of my finger to make that sound. Have a go at making that sound with me. So we're on the biggest string, it's on the left hand side, and that's our first string. Yeah? Let's try the next string. And the same sound on the next one. And our last one. Have you made a plucking sound on all of the strings? So let's learn what these strings are called. The one we started on, the biggest string, on the left hand side, this is a G. Then we get D, then A, then E. And a good way to remember this is greedy dogs always eat. So G for greedy, D for dogs, A for always, and then E for eat. So, can you play your G and your D? Now your A, now your E. So now we know our note names, let's start playing with a pulse. So just like our bodies and our heartbeat, music has a pulse that keeps it alive. So a good steady beat, like the ticking of a clock. So on every string we're going to do 4 tick-tocks, like this. I'll show you first. Tick-tock, 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 tick-tock. Okay, so we're going to keep each beat nice and steady and regular, like the ticking of a clock. Okay, so now we're ready to play. Standing or sitting nice and tall, all relaxed, our fiddle goes up and we're ready. So we're going to do 4 tick-tocks on each string, starting with the G for greedy. So, ready to go? Ready, steady, off we go. Tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock. Let's try it again. Ready, steady, off we go. Tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock. Lovely. Now let's try the D. Ready, steady, off we go. Tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock. And again on the D. And ready, steady, off we go. Tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock. Now the A. Ready, steady, off we go. Tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock. One more time on the A. Ready, steady, off we go. And one more string, which one is it? Our E. Ready, steady, off we go. One more time on the E. Ready, steady, off we go. Yeah, well done. So that's what I would like you to practice before you move on to the next video. Practice your tick-tocks on every string. Practice remembering what the note names are so you know them really well. Greedy dogs always eat. G, D, A, E. And you can also remember all the different parts of the fiddle and how to look after it and take good care of it. So happy practicing and see you in the next video. Well done, bye.